Hello, my dear friends. How are you doing? Hope you are having an amazing day and not having to deal with drama. Ready for new stories I have for you today? Let's go to the first one. And don't forget to listen to the end of the story, guys, to hear my insights. Enjoy the stories. And don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment. I, 28 female, have two siblings, Jake, 34 male, and Donna, 32 female. When Donna was 10, Dad found out Mom had cheated on him, and Donna was not his child, which confirmed this. Our parents divorced, but nothing changed with Dad and Donna. He still treated her the same, but he also told her if she ever wanted to know her biological father, he would love, support, and help her in that journey. When Donna was 20, she asked Dad for helping finding her bio father. He paid for the DNA test and other expenses, including travel when she found him. He paid for therapy. He held her hand throughout. He told me and Jake this changed nothing, and he told us to support our sister because he was worried we wouldn't like her finding the guy. Donna chose not to stay in touch with her bio father at that time. 3 years after this, Donna started a relationship back up with her biological dad, but told nobody for 2 years. The first we learned about it was when Donna got engaged and she invited the guy to her engagement party. During the engagement party, she introduced her biological dad as her real dad to people. Dad took it in stride and said it was sometimes hard to find the words. Donna asked Dad if he would pay for her biological father's hotel room for an extra night because he could only afford one night and she wanted to see him a little longer, and Dad did this for her. When she got married, she asked Dad to pay, and he did. Then she had her bio father walk her down the aisle and only mentioned him in her toast. Dad was heartbroken. She also refused to take a photo with just Dad and us without her real dad in it. Then she got mad that Dad asked for it. She called him out for it after the wedding. Then 2 years ago, she refused to take part in Dad's 60th birthday because it wasn't fair to her real dad. She also announced that she was expecting a baby and didn't want to confuse her child about who their grandpa was. She wasn't going to pretend Dad was her dad any longer. She also announced her real dad had adopted her, so she was no longer legally Dad's kid anyway. She didn't try to include Dad in her baby's life at all. But now her real dad has let her down, and she went crying back to Dad and said she wanted him to be in her life again. She wanted him to reassure her that nothing was wrong, etc., and Dad refused. She told him he shouldn't reject his grandchild, and he said he never rejected his grandchild, but she made it clear he didn't have one. She said it wasn't fair, and he promised nothing had changed. He said he wished he hadn't done any of it. He wished he had left her to her real dad since he meant nothing to her clearly. She went to Jake, who told her she got what she deserved. Then she turned to me. I didn't say that, but I told her I wanted no part of her pity party and would not support her after what she did to Dad. She told me we had always been close, and it was so cold and cruel to reject supporting her when she needs it most. Am I the a-hole? OP's dad raised OP's sister like his own blood, and she abandoned him for her bio dad, who did basically nothing for her. Not only that, she also broke her dad's heart many times, and now she wants him back just because her bio dad abandoned her? Seems like karma caught up to her. OP has no obligation to help her, especially when it's the consequence of her own actions. L473 says, "Not the a-hole. You should send her this post so she can see how royally she is screwed up. If she was 16 to 21, I may have given her a pass, but she is a grown woman who chose to stomp all over the heart of the one man who has stood by her throughout this whole mess your mother created." Jealous Somewhere 36 says, "Not the a-hole. You are clearly not the a-hole here. Some grown-ups tend to not want to face the consequences of the decisions and actions they take. She clearly, and over a long period of time, and main life events made her choice clear. She didn't change it until she had no other choice, losing contact with her bio father. I would say she was the a-hole for breaking your dad's heart, and she's again the a-hole for involving you when it didn't work out." Ghost Through Days says, "Not the a-hole. Your dad changed nothing. Your sister changed everything, and with her changes, your dad was forced to change. Your dad was good enough to pay for everything and more, but your sister was honoring only her bio dad. This entitled attitude your sister had is only going to work so far, and now it simply backfires on her. But she had it coming." I, 31 male, have been in a relationship with my girlfriend, 27 female, for about a year. We cohabitate and have done so for the past 6 months. A couple of weeks back, I blew out $200 ordering some Wagyu steaks. I was looking forward to them coming so much because I love cooking and have never had a real Wagyu steak before. They arrived on Thursday evening last week, and I decided we'd have them for dinner on Friday night. My girlfriend seemed genuinely uninterested, as she's not much of a steak person, but she said she'd enjoy them with me. On Friday morning, we had an argument before I went to work. It was really stupid. She disagreed with me on a project that I'm working on involving the garage, and despite the fact that I own the house we live in, kept trying to assert authority over the decisions I made. She then brought up the Wagyu steaks as evidence that I was wasting money on the project and expensive food. I went to work in a bad mood, but I shot her a text in the afternoon saying that I'd like to talk it over a bit when I got home with a cool head. She didn't answer. I left work around 5:30, looking forward to the steaks. But when I walked in the door, there was this horrible smoke smell. My girlfriend greeted me, grabbed my hand, and led me to the table. She said, "Dinner is served." The steaks were pitch black, completely inedible. Eating them would have been a health hazard. I asked what the hell she was thinking, and she theatrically gasped with her hand over her mouth, and then said, "Oh, me?" Now let me get one thing straight here. There is no way she accidentally got those steaks to that condition. Based on our frying pan, she probably turned the heat up as high as it would go, threw them on with no oil or butter, and just let them sit. This was completely intentional. I called her out on her lie. She kept being obtuse. She kept using little phrases like, "Oh, aren't you happy?" and "Oh, you weren't looking forward to these steaks?" I've never been so disgusted with her. Well, her birthday was on Sunday, and I had reservations to a really nice French restaurant for her parents, and me. I just flat out told her I was canceling the reservation. She immediately flipped and told me that her parents were going to be super upset, but I didn't care. She grabbed the steaks and threw them in the garbage, where they were going to go anyway, and then stormed off. Sunday came and went. She didn't say a single word to me, opting to lock herself in another room. Her parents have had full radio silence. I'm starting to feel bad about my decision, but did I go over the top here? She wasted $200 worth of steak just to be petty. That's very childish and immature. Can you imagine marrying that woman, having kids with her, and having to go through divorce? She would drag you through a hell of a divorce one day when you have kids, just out of spite. So OP needs to run and never look back. And now let's hear the community's opinion. Independent T says, "How childish. If this is how she acts after only living together for 6 months, I dread to think how much worse she can get." According End 4142 says, "Your relationship is more burnt than the steak and should be thrown into the garbage bin too. Save yourself a whole life of this. 6 months and already showing you she is a living nightmare. Run, boy. She loves having power over you. It will only get worse from now on." Nick 4424 says, "She was complaining about you wasting money and then went and blew $200 worth of food." I met my husband James 3 years after the death of his first wife, Liz. James and Liz had a daughter together, Eloise, Elle. I met Elle about 16 months after James and I started dating, and it was rough at first. Elle did not want her dad to be with someone else. Elle was 5 when Liz died, and she was terrified of forgetting the few memories she had of her, and terrified of someone taking her mom's place in her and her dad's life. James and Elle went to therapy together, and she opened up and he reassured her. After some time, I joined the sessions, and we talked through a lot from my place in her life, to what I wanted from our relationship and what she was okay with. I told her if I could be her friend, it would be the hugest honor, and if she would accept me into her family, not as her mom, but as a member of her family, it would be another honor. We ended up there. Elle and I became close around the time James and I got married. She was very excited to give her dad away and even hugged me after I joined them at the altar. Our relationship became that of a trusted family member that is more like a friend. A lot of people assumed with time, Elle would start to accept me as a second mom because we were close and I never pushed for this. I would have loved that, I will be honest. I love her completely, and because I love her, I accept the role of a close friend and family member, and not a parent or second mom. Would I have liked to get there? Yes, but I will never demand it. Elle's wedding was just over a week ago, and during a toast she made, she touched on our relationship. She called me one of her greatest friends. She thanked me for being there and for respecting the love she had for her mom and her wish to not have another one. She called me one of the greatest humans and told me she believed her mom would have loved me. My parents approached Elle while everyone was dancing and confronted her over differentiating me from the other parents of the bride and groom. They told her after more than 20 years of being in her life, I had more than earned the recognition of being her mom. They told her she has basically shattered my heart and dreams. I was able to reach them before they said much else, and I told them they needed to leave and told them it was disgusting that they were attempting to spoil Elle's day. I also knew they were prepared to get loud and tell everyone else in the room what was going on. They tried to defend themselves afterward and told me it was disgusting that she still won't acknowledge me as her second mom after all this time, and they couldn't stand by without saying something. I told them it was wrong, and they argued back more about it. I told them I was ashamed and disgusted by them attempting to make a scene at the wedding, and they should never have brought any of this up to her, regardless of where. They told me they were just looking out for me, and I should apologize to them. Am I the a-hole? OP's parents were way out of line for inserting themselves into OP's relationship with her stepdaughter and taking her to task at her wedding. The entitlement is breathtaking. The least they could have done was check in with OP first about whether OP was okay with what her stepdaughter said. Appropriate Bat 2762 says, "Not the a-hole. Your parents were way out of line. Do not apologize. Your relationship with your stepdaughter is not their concern." Socratic Labrador 02 says, "Not the a-hole. You were right to challenge your parents. Regardless of their intentions, they were out of line to confront Elle like that on her wedding day. It sounds like they aimed to make a scene. I'm sure Elle appreciated the way you handled it." Coastal Kid 92 says, "Not the a-hole. Elle is your stepchild, and that's a relationship you are responsible for. If your parents have concerns, sure, let them raise it to you, and you can reassure them that you're fine with where things stand with Elle, and then put it all to bed. But her wedding is not the time nor the place to even remotely start that conversation." I'm getting married in June to Kate, and I wasn't aware until recently that my mom had a problem with her. I mean, they are very different. Kate is quiet, reserved, practical, and my mom lives in a fantasy world, but they seemed okay. For some context, my mom and I aren't that close. I don't think she actually wanted to be a mother, so the relationship has always felt fake. She is married to Ryan, who is a decent enough guy and treats her very well, but he seems to have some issues. He's a big-shot lawyer who never loses, so the one time he did lose a case, he punched a wall and then didn't speak all evening, wouldn't eat, etc. He bought a microwave so he could heat his own food and not have to go into the staff room because he can't stand people saying hi to him. This is only after he stopped letting his assistant heat it, because my mom said she was probably touching it to gauge the temperature. He almost never speaks to Kate or I, and says he doesn't owe anyone words. He's a stage 12 clinger who has to have at least one hand on my mom at all times. He was just telling my mom if she would just learn to golf, he could get rid of his friends and never have to speak to another person outside of work again. He grew up poor and is now super annoying about his money. I've never said anything because my mom clearly thinks the sun shines out of his butt. Anyway, my mom recently sat me down and says she is concerned about my future. She said that Kate is nice enough, but so boring and has no hobbies or sense of humor, and she is worried I'm settling for. She took a long dramatic breath and then said an accountant. She said no one actually wants to marry an accountant. I was pissed that she was going after Kate and said, "But you married a little bee." Ryan was in the house and heard it. He just made a face, but my mom exploded and told me to get out, and when I didn't move, she shoved me. She said I can get the duck out if I'm going to disrespect her husband like that, and said the stuff she said about Kate wasn't that bad, but I made it personal. I guess I feel a little bad as I went for Ryan when he wasn't doing anything. She might not be coming to the wedding now. Mr. Ocean Bear says, "I mean, Ryan sounds boring as hell too. He doesn't want to interact with anyone ever." Heart BH says, "An accountant made me laugh. Like we are only what we do for a living. Your mom and her husband sound like narcissists." Mick Glugwe says, "Sorry, made me laugh so much. What an amazing person Ryan is. What a description. Your mother is whacked out and out of line for saying anything about Kate. It's none of her business. It wouldn't have taken her 2 seconds to do a search for, should I say invasive, unflattering things to my kid about their partner before they get married? No, don't. The most you can do is plan your wedding and enjoy your life with Kate. And who knows what will happen. But you will be okay." My sister and I are not close, and it is due to our parents. She's a very awkward and shy person. She is 2 years younger than me, and my parents always made me watch over her. Some examples. I needed to join clubs she was interested in so she wouldn't be alone, dropping hanging out with my friends to be with her, downplaying successes since it would make her sad, and so on. I was kinda an emotional support animal for her. When I was in high school and she was in middle school, it was fine, since I could get away from everyone. She came to high school, and my parents wanted me to be by her 24/7 again, and it was awful. I turned 18 and moved out with my aunt. I stopped helping her, and she had a very lonely high school experience, and at the time blamed me for it. She dropped out of college for multiple reasons, but one of them was not having friends. Overall, she never grew out of it. I've been in family therapy with my parents since, and realized they messed up. My wedding is coming up, and I was asked to make my sister a bridesmaid for my grandma. My sister has apparently been going around telling everyone she will be a bridesmaid. I told everyone that she will not, and it's just my close friends. This started an argument with my sister in front of the family, and she was upset and told me how alone she is. I got annoyed and told everyone that I don't care that she doesn't have friends, and she will not be a bridesmaid at my wedding. She called me a jerk, and people are split. Some think I was too harsh, and others think it's justified. Comfortable Way says, "Not the a-hole. Your parents have turned you into your sister's safety blanket, and now she doesn't know how to function without you and still expects you to keep up with your behavior. I know from outsiders it's easy to say you should have handled it better. I mean, could you have handled it better? Yeah, sure, you could have. Should you have handled it better, though? I don't think so. They've asked you to give up a lot, just so you could shelter your sister from the hardships of social interaction. There's probably a lot of resentment that built up inside you that didn't have an outlet. This is your day. If you're not firm, your sister might think there's wiggle room, which you don't want. People are telling you that you reacted wrongly. Why did no one ever tell your parents to stop parentifying you? Where were those people when you could not live your life without your sister? Why is your sister's happiness always more important than your own? She has to learn to deal with rejection. She blames you for her lonely high school experience, for crying out loud. She believes she is entitled to your time. Nope, definitely not the a-hole. I wish you a happy wedding." Fun Comfortable says, "Not the a-hole. It is your wedding, your choice. I do think you could have worded it differently, but I understand it was probably heat of the moment, and you were upset. It's not your job to make sure your sister has someone to hang with. Even shy, awkward people can make friends. She probably never tried in the club she joined because you were always there."